Wishing all of you a very good afternoon again. It's good to see all of you on a Saturday afternoon. I'm Praneeth. I head the undergraduate admissions for upGrad. I'm joined here by Stephanie Hunter and Juliana Braga. Stephanie is the Chief Operating Officer of the Russo Business School in Australia, and Juliana is the counselor lead serving that school. I'll also introduce upGrad. upGrad is an online higher education platform, one of South Asia's largest. And what we're largely doing is bringing some of the top universities across the world on a more accessible, affordable, and democratized medium. In India, we actually help some of the finest schools across the world. And by schools, I mean most colleges and universities that are highly ranked, design and develop and deliver their curriculum online. We've been doing this for about 7 years now. We've now had over 2 million students who study with us across 70 different countries in the world. And I think largely in the last 2 years, we've suddenly seen a surge of students who've picked up hybrid or blended degree courses as one of their priority options. To save money, to make sure that they're easing into the academic rigor or the gruesome nature of academia abroad, but also to ensure that they can spend more time at home while they work or while they're still involved with a sports commitment or something entrepreneurial. That's what we're largely trying to do, making education after your grade 12th in India more flexible. So you decide how many years or how many months do you want to stay in India and when are you finally ready to transfer abroad. Russo Business School is one of our pioneers. And what we've done with them is we've developed a 4-month online pathway program, which offers students the Diploma of Business. While you graduate in June from your school uh, and anticipate your transfer to Australia for your bachelor degree, Russo lets you cover 4 out of the 8 subjects that are covered in Australian degrees every year. And so you save costs, you save the time when you wait for the visa, and by the time in September when you're able to transfer, you already have 4 out of the 8 subjects covered. So you've already done half the curriculum of the Australian degree. And then you move to Australia, cover the rest for 2.5 years, then you are in Australia. You have a choice of doing a Diploma of Business from Russo, but then a choice between James Cook and Griffith University in Brisbane, two of the most highly ranked universities in Australia, number 13 and number 15. I think that was a good start. I think I have given to you a brief context of what Russo is all about. I would now give it over to Stephanie. Stephanie's going to cover the history behind Russo. Where does Russo come from? What is the program largely about? While Juliana will cover the career progressions, the employability, and which career paths to pick up in Australia after your business degree. Over to you, Stephanie. It's lovely having you too.
Thank you so much, Praneeth. I am so grateful for the invitation to be here tonight and to talk to everybody about the great opportunity that we're offering students to be able to start their degree in Australia and then start their degree in India and then transfer to Australia after they've completed the first 4 subjects. It's a great opportunity to get a sense of what an Australian education's like while you're still living at home, supported by loved ones and family, but also a great opportunity to save some money and make your Australian education just a little bit more affordable as well. Russo Business School started in 2015 and was operating for 4 to 5 years until the Australian borders closed due to COVID. We're now ready. We've spent that time while we weren't able to be offering education to face-to-face students to redesign our program and to get it into this format where we can allow students to actually start offshore and then come on campus to study. I would, if I could, just like to share my screen. I wanted to give you a little bit of a history of the Russo group, if I could, and how where Serena Russo fits into this. And it doesn't look like I've done a particularly good job of doing that. Stop share. Hang on, let me try that again. No, it's not working. Keep getting
Here's
your
what you can
screen,
do.
actually, I think, Praneet, instead of my own. With that one, we'll go, and if it doesn't work, I will just do my thing. No, it's not going to work.
I
Okay,
think here's
so
what you can do.
what I
You
was
can,
trying to do, what I was trying to emphasize is that Russo Business School is actually part of a much larger organisation, an organisation that's had 43 years of history in the Australian education sector, and also in finding employment for students and for job seekers in Australia as well. So we've been operating in this area for nearly half a century. We have our founder is one of Australia's leading entrepreneurs, a self-made, businesswoman who started by starting an institution where she was determined to get everyone a job by the end of it. And as a result, she started what's probably one of the most, it's an unrivaled post-secondary education network in Australia that incorporates vocational training, an institute of higher education, which Russo Business School is, and a university, as well as an English language school and a raft of other businesses as well. So we're not just one entity, we're actually part of a much greater institute, a much larger company that actually employs over 800 staff members in Australia, India, China, and Brazil. So tonight, what we're wanting to talk about is the pathway that we offer, which is a Diploma of Business, which is then followed with direct entry into the second year of a Bachelor of Business degree. So it not only allows you to save time, because you can complete your diploma in 8 months and then go straight into the second year. So you actually save some fees there, but it also provides it in a much more supported environment than going straight into a university environment. So that's just a little bit of a background, and Praneet's going to ask me a series of questions, which I'll be very happy to answer, and hopefully I can also find a way to share my screen and be able to share some of that information with you as well.
sure. I think the first one, you and Juliana both, is going to be, why does a business degree make sense in Australia, from the context of the economy? And what are some of the career progressions that are actually attributable to a BBA or a BCom course that students largely do in Australia?
So from the perspective of why study in Australia and why study in Brisbane, is that Brisbane is Australia's third largest city, firstly. So we are actually a burgeoning city in our own right. We have more than 2.5 million people, which I know probably doesn't sound like much in India, but it's actually quite large for India. We're Australia's capital city, closest to Asia, and we're also going to be hosting the 2032 Olympic Games. In addition to our own industries around mining, education, just a thriving business community and scientific community, we're also an hour's drive from Australia's famous Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast, so major tourism hubs in their own right. So Bachelor of Business and Commerce and also Tourism, Events and Hospitality, which are other degrees that we offer, students can go into pathways in a variety of areas. Accounting, management, marketing, human resource management. The sky's really the limit. And in addition to that, every business sector requires people that have business acumen. So a hospital still needs to have people that are accountants. A hospital still needs to have people who can manage the staff. And the same in schools and any industry that you can imagine. They all have people who need to be able to run that entity in a way that makes them tick, that can analyze the data, that can do all those sorts of things. So when you've got a business or commerce degree, the sky is really the limit. And our desire is to create people through Russo Business School and into the degrees that we offer with that commercial acumen, with those basic business skills that will enable them to succeed in any industry, or even if they decide to start their own business, they know what they'll need to do and how to make what they need to do to make that business operate successfully. But I will hand over to Juliana, who can talk a little bit more about the specificities, I guess, of where some of our graduates have landed.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Praneet. Thank you, everyone. So, and just adding what Stephanie said, like when the students are studying the Diploma of Business, they will be studying 8 subjects. That the subjects will include management, accounting, marketing, and even business in general. And when like normally young students start a diploma, they don't know what they want for the career. And having the opportunity to study the subjects, that they'll find what skills or interests they have the most. And then coming to me, they can, like normally I say to them, when you start your course, when you are in the middle of your course, because you have a better understanding about the subjects, you can come to me and then we can discuss about what you're interested more about the subject. Why do you think yourself you will be working this place? And then like, it's in a one-on-one because everyone is different, but then asking questions to the student or the person who are interested to pursue a career in some areas, we will create a plan, because supposing that someone wants just to go for accounting, specifically in accounting, probably we need to develop some training with this person as well to improve the Excel or MyOb or Zero, or even if they just wanted to work in human resource, maybe some techniques, how to deal with people, problem solving, communication skills. So that depends, but as Stephanie said, as a business, a diploma of business, you have a variety of fields and areas that you can go. You can start as just a basic admin, you can be a personal assistant, you can work as a front officer, you can have your own business, you can be a project manager for different roles in particular, business. So there are a diversity areas that students can go. And the most important thing is for you to understand yourself. It's not just like, I wanted to do something related to that because that pays more, because maybe you are not going to be a good professional and then you're going to be frustrated with yourself. It's good for you to understand you. And that's when I also ask students to come for us to have a conversation. And then normally, sometimes they have different areas that they are interested. I suggest to start as an internship, because when you start as an intern, you have an opportunity to see how the theory is work in a practical, and then they can talk to people, see how the work is. And then normally after the internship, a lot of students, they get a job, they prove to the business that they are good. But even like if they don't get the job, if they did a good job, you get network, you get good reference. And if you start applying for jobs later, you have credibility here in Australia, because here in Australia it's very important for you to have a referee. Sometimes the students come with referee from different countries, but no one is going to call, someone that working in India. So, and here in Australia, people trust in the referee here. And because of that, normally I tell them it's very important for you to gain local experience, because even if you have experience in your country, it's not the same. You need to understand the Australian work culture. You need to understand how business work here. And then start as an internship sometimes is the best door or window, I would say, for you to find a way, for you to find your career and start a job. And to be honest, like we have a lot of successful stories, students who start as an internship and got a job. But even if they didn't get the job, that's my job to help you. Once, as you asked the question before, even if like you finish the course, you don't know what to do, Job Links, this is a department for Russo Business School. The students, they still have like 6 months to come to our department for me to help them with resume, cover letter, find a job, refer them to some jobs, because we have a lot of contacts, with different business that once the students, even if like future students, if they wanted to follow us on Instagram, on social media, they can go to Job Links 2022, and they can see like a lot of jobs that we post every day for students, career counseling techniques, you know, testimonial, and that they can get a better understanding how we can help them.
Gauzer, I think largely to summarize this, I think what Stephanie mentioned was that business anyway is a very general degree. I think entrepreneurship in the
Yeah.
next 2 or 3 years is going to be an inextricable part of almost every job because it is very synonymous to solving complex problems at work. And so if you're studying business, you can pretty much get into any industry,
Yeah.
like Stephanie and Juliana rightly mentioned, I think. And just to reiterate and reaffirm what Juliana was mentioning is that Job Links is a portal that the Russo Business School largely uses and James Cook University largely makes use of to ensure that everybody who graduates from these degree programs are well employed. And every university, including RBS, offers up to 6 months of career support, even after these students actually graduate. So, which is something that not many universities actually offer. And I think also to reiterate what Stephanie mentioned was that Brisbane, anyway, is a very thriving economy uh, of its own, including the hospitality industry, the accounting industry. So which means it's a great city to not only be in but also to work in. Also, just to mention to every attendee here, Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane are actually the metropolitan cities of Australia, fall under Tier 1, and I think are great uh, places in Australia to actually work in. My next question to you, Stephanie, would be how does the diploma actually benefit students? Apart from knowing that it is an easy pathway into business or commerce or accounting, social work, hospitality degree in Australia, and that 1 year actually is waived off and it gives you an advance or lateral entry into the second year of these degree courses. But what additionally do you think, apart from cost savings of about 10 lakhs, uh, is the benefit that students can start with a diploma? How are they more prepared and equipped for being into the industry than any other student who regularly does a degree, Stephanie?
So that's an interesting question because there is it's an alternate pathway to going straight into a grant, and we actually think besides the cost factor and potentially being an easier pathway, that it does offer, or the program that we've put together does offer particular advantages over going straight into universities. So the first thing that our diploma offers is we actually deliver it in a different way. So when you go to university, generally we're doing 3 subjects in a trimester or 4 subjects in a semester. So you have to do subjects, 4 subjects or 3 subjects concurrently at the same time over quite an extended period of time. We've changed that and looked at trying to bring like subjects together and offer them over a shorter period of time to really help with engagement and to help you to thoroughly immerse yourself in particular discipline areas, do the assessment on that, complete that, and then move into the next 2 subjects. So for instance, we put communication with a business skills development course because there's obvious synergies between those. We put marketing and management together as 2 subjects together and integrated them so that students can see the overlaps between those two disciplines. The same with data analytics and economics. So students get to, I guess, get a bit more of an in-depth understanding and a very much an applied understanding of these disciplines. So we apply everything that we do with our diploma to a virtual business. So we try to apply it. So if you were running a small business, how would these discipline areas apply to that business? So it's not just picking up a textbook and learning out of that, it's actually applying it to what we would call a simulated real life environment, so that you have to try to work through some of those issues that are going to be impacting on businesses today. And we think that's actually a more authentic way to learn than learning in a very much textbook oriented or just giving you the information in a very theoretical way. We do that, but we also then apply it. So you get the best of both worlds. With the diploma also, we have gone across all the key disciplines that you're going to need in a business degree. So our first year includes communication, how to communicate in a business environment. It includes marketing and management. It includes data analysis and getting your head around what that means, so that you can apply it in later years. And that's some tricky, sort of things to get through. We have economics, which is another area that people might want to specialize in later, but many business degrees don't include that at first year, but we have it in our diploma because we think it's such a fundamental concept. We teach accounting and we teach business law. So those legal frameworks that are going to apply to you, the law of contract in Australia, consumer law, all those basic things that you need to know to run a business or to work in a business in Australia. And with having that broad base to the diploma, it really means that you can then specialise in a variety of different things going into second year. You're not going to be constrained because you haven't done the first accounting subject, or you haven't done marketing, or you haven't done those sorts of things. It really sets you up to be able to transfer into any Australian degree with credit. Now we have particularly arrangements with 2 universities that will then extend to others where you get the full year. But if you went to any Australian university, they would potentially give you at least six of those first year units that would then translate straight into their degree, because they're just, it's such a broad-based degree. So it's really about the content and the subjects that we deliver, that we're covering all bases, and also the fact that we try to deliver it in an engaging way that students can really engage with the disciplines.
Got that. I think to reaffirm what you just mentioned, there are usually 8 subjects covered in every year of an Australian bachelor's degree. The diploma gives you the first 8 subjects as a broad base that gets you an advanced standing into any degree course at James Cook and Griffith under the business and management schools. You've got Bachelor of Business, Bachelor of Commerce, Bachelor of Event and Tourism Management, and finally Bachelor of Social Work at James Cook, while in Griffith you've got the Bachelor of Business degree. So what the diploma largely does is it waives off 8 subjects equivalent to 24 credit points, equivalent to 1 complete year of your degree. So by the time you graduate, you've got the Diploma of Business in your hand, 1 certificate, and second is the normal degree that you've got, which is a typical Bachelor of Business or Bachelor of Commerce degree from an Australian university, which is either going to be Griffith or James Cook. Stephanie, at this point, would love for you to jump in and talk about how much does it cost when they do a diploma partially with upGrad for 4 months and 4 months at the Russo campus. And could you also draw a comparison between a normal Australian year if they're enrolled into a regular degree course, Stephanie?
Sure, I can. Now I'm going to just quote off my, so if I'm looking at my screen, just because I can't share the screen with you all, but I'd be more than happy to provide these slides to Praneet, and he can share them afterwards.
Sure.
So if starting, and also I'll rely on Praneet to do the conversion. I'll be talking, so when I'm talking, I'm talking in Australian dollars. So I just wanted to let people know that. So if you were to start online in India, the price is $4,400 or 1,100 Australian dollars for the first 4 subjects. And that is less than
2.5 lakhs.
Yeah,
less than 2.5 lakh rupees.
To study on. So yeah, it's less than half our tuition fee if you're studying online in India, and you're also saving on your living expenses. So if you were to do the course through upGrad, starting offshore and then coming on campus, the total tuition fee for the diploma would be $14,200 Australian, compared to if you were doing the course on campus, which would be $19,600. So there's a $5,000 difference just in the tuition fee. And then comparing that, if you went straight into a Bachelor of Business degree for first year, the standard tuition fee is $30,500. for that. So it's half the price basically of if you were coming straight into a first year of a Bachelor of Business. And then there's also just the living expenses that that you're saving by staying at home for longer. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. It does. So the Diploma of Business is broken into two halves. First half of the first four subjects that you cover in India with upGrad and Russo Business School, that will cost you about 2.5 lakhs of Indian rupees, followed by your transfer to Russo Business School for the last four subjects that will which will cost every Indian student about 5,19,000 Indian rupees to cover the last four subjects on campus in Australia, followed by a typical fee about 30,000 Australian dollars per year. Although there are scholarships that apply, we would jump to Stephanie very soon to ask about the kind of scholarships that James Cook and Griffith normally offer. But largely, I think in comparison to a normal degree course in the first year, you're not only getting a diploma of business certificate, but also saving about 18,000 Australian dollars at an average. That is approximately 10 lakh rupees. Plus, you're also saving about 4 to 6 months of living costs, and you're actually getting a dual certification. Would love to switch to Stephanie now and prompt her to talk about some of the scholarships that are available at James Cook and Griffith. Um, and what must a student have in order to get those?
So with a scholarship, there's not a scholarship for the first year. So with Russo Business School, we offer very much a discounted price in terms of the online pathway that we offer. But if you're coming into James Cook University, Brisbane and Griffith, there are scholarships for year 2 and 3, or bursaries as we like to call them. They are contingent on achieving grade point averages, like doing well in your studies. So that's essentially what needs to happen in terms of being eligible for those bursaries. And so they're not guaranteed, but generally both universities will offer scholarships for high achieving students who are getting something like maybe a credit average. I'm not sure if you use that terminology in India, but it's got to be above the just a standard pass mark to be eligible for those scholarships. But that's the best thing you can be doing in order to increase your eligibility, is making sure that you're doing well with your studies.
Yeah, I think I can take that as well. So for students transitioning to James Cook, if you've got 67% and above in your grade 12, you normally get a 20% fee waiver, which Stephanie rightly mentioned as bursaries that are given as soon as you fulfill the criteria for admissions, if you score a little above that or north of that. So if you scored 67% and above, you get 20% as a waiver each year of both the years. So that makes your fee about 12.5 lakhs. So 12.5 plus 12.5 is about 25 plus another 7 lakhs. So say about 30 to 32 lakhs is how much an Australian degree with Russo as a pathway costs you. In comparison to a regular degree in Australia, that's going to cost you above or a little north of about 45 lakhs at least. At this point, I think I'd love to ask Stephanie or Juliana in that case about part-time work. So I have always been told that Australia is one of the most student-friendly parts of the world, extremely supportive. Recently waived off the restriction on the number of hours that students could work. Would love for Juliana and Stephanie to talk more about it and tell me about, so as soon as students actually transfer on campus, what kind of opportunities for part-time work do they get? Whether something is available at the Russo or James Cook or Griffith campus, and how does part-time work actually look like in, once they actually land in Australia?
Thank you, Praneet. At the moment, yes, the students they don't have any restriction in terms of hours to work here in Australia, so they can work as a full-time in any sector. However, we don't know how long that will take for the government to change the rules. Normally, as as you said, we students cannot work more than 40 hours in a fortnight. Normally, when students, they just arrive here in Australia, they get casual work. And the easiest way for them to get a job, because most of the jobs in office or more in business, they will require students to be a full-time or work more hours. So as like when students come here, the easiest way for them to find a job and pay the expenses are jobs in retail, hospitality, construction, manufacturing, and there are some training courses that students need to do for them to get some certificate to work, for example, in hospitality or in manufacturing or in construction. But job links assisted the students to do this course. Some of them are free for the students at the school, like food and beverage barista, and the responsible service of alcohol is also for James Cook University students free. But then like my job is like, I would love to give jobs for everyone, you know, as soon as they come to my door and say, this is the job. But unfortunately, I'm not the business. I'm not like the retail store. I'm not the hospitality store. I normally work with the student because I wanted to understand what kind of job they are prepared to do as well. Because some students, they are not prepared to do a cleaning job, or some students, they are not prepared to work in hospitality. Then we make a resume using the transferable skills or skills that they already have to make a resume according to the job that they wanted to do. And normally I have contacts, yes, you know, that I refer the students for the contacts, you know, and then I organize an interview, or even sometimes if I don't have, I contact some business and I try to assist the student. I guide the student as well, how they can get a job, because normally I say, I'm here to help, but you need to help me to help you. You know, if we both work together, the job will come soon. So then I give them some strategy as well, how they can approach some business, what they need to do, where they can go. Because when I'm just a university, I can help them. But if they go, if I give them some tips and ideas, it's more faster for them to get the opportunity than waiting for me. So definitely I'm here to help, you know, and I'll help them as much as I can and make them to get the job that they want as soon as possible. But I hate to promise that they will knock in my door, you know, and I'll give them a pass and say, this is the job. But like we work so hard to help them because we know there is a different word for them. And as much as ideas and guidance that we can give them, not just about jobs, but anything that they need in their personal life, we're here to support them.
Got that. So what I largely gauged from this is not only is Russo School actually helping them find part-time work, but also training them in case you feel that they're not ready. I think would love to know if Stephanie wants to add anything to it.
Yeah, I think, look, it's a really good point, because what Juliana is highlighting when she talks about sometimes students need some extra help is this is one of the benefits that we have of actually having co-located with Russo Business School a vocational education provider who can provide some of that training. So that might be being able to make coffee in Australia, which is a very big thing, barista training. So lots of students find work in cafes making coffee. It might be about working in a hospitality, serving other beverages, and students need that training. So we can easily enroll students in that training and get that done. And so they've got the certificate that they need to be able to go out and find work. The other thing that I think Juliana mentioned before, which is also useful, is that if students want to work in, say, accounting or those sorts of areas as well while they're studying, we can enroll them in, you know, Excel, advanced Excel, or how to use Xero, or how to use some of those software packages that students are going to need in order to be able to find some of those part-time work that they need. And so that's a real value add. In that, you know, Juliana is providing that one-on-one support and giving a little bit of an individual training plan or individual plan for the students to say, we need to do this, or you need to do something else, and here's how you can do it. And it's very easy to do it because all these things are co-located. So that just makes
Yeah.
it a bit of a one-stop shop for students as well, and really eases that transition. Because if they can find some casual work, it also provides not only a way to make money, but also a way to make friends and to meet other people in the community, and really help to feel part of our community in Australia.
Got that. I think what largely the two of you, yeah, what largely the two of you have been mentioning is that converse or contrary to the narrative that you only get work at a cafe or something very casual, you can actually get relevant work as well, right? Uh, and the team at Russo, James Cook and Griffith actually train you for it. I think in India, when I talk to most stakeholders or students who are looking to transition to um, any Australian university, they normally carry a narrative that, hey, as long as part-time work is concerned, it is mostly going to be casual, whether they're working at a coffee house or the likes of it. So good to know that you're also helping them find relevant work. Uh, Stephanie, how much does a part-time job pay like, and how many hours can they finally work as soon as they reach the campus?
Sorry,
You're in,
Stephanie,
you're you're in mute, Steph.
at the moment, Praneeth, as we don't have any restriction, they can work like full time,
As long
in
as they
any
can.
sector. But as soon as the restrictions start again, no more than 40 hours in a fortnight, like 20 hours per week. Yeah.
Got that, got that. And how much does a part-time work for a college student pay like, as in what are the wages?
Depends the sector. Each area that like you are working, there are different like minimum wage, that you are going to like be paid. So just giving a rough idea, like normally like the minimum wage today would be, I think, if I'm not wrong, is around $18 per hour, But if you go to the Australia Fair Works, when you work on weekends, you receive more. When you work like public holidays, is the double as well. If you work in health sector, you receive more. So depend on the sector that you are working, depend on the employer that you are going to work for as well.
Got that. Yeah, I think so. For the most part, as long as they're working part-time, they can pretty much take care of the living expenses as well. I
I
think
don't know. I
would
don't know if you could cover all of it, because your living expenses are around $525. I think we've budgeted per
Mhm, mhm,
week.
mhm.
It would be difficult to cover all of your living expenses. You might be able to cover half, or
Some of it.
half, 50%. But I think it probably would be unrealistic to try to think you can cover all of those living expenses.
Mhm, mhm.
I think the thing too that Juliana did mention is, while those restrictions come in about the part-time work during the semester, it's 40 hours per fortnight. In vacations, students can work much more.
Yeah.
So when they're actually not in semester in their teaching term, they can actually work much more, and that would then help to really, if you could get good work in those blocks, that would really help to offset your living expenses on a much greater level.
Got that. I think that pretty much sums up and gives me the answer to what I asked. We've got a few questions from our attendees when they signed up. I could take some of them. Post-study work visa, you're actually um, required to apply for it, but when you apply for it, you can get as much as 2 years of work visa. But that's largely after you graduate from Griffith or James Cook University with a bachelor's degree. Like I mentioned, Russo is a pathway and not the final degree. Russo will just give you a diploma of business and gives you the ease or the comfort of starting it from your home while you wait for a visa. So for any Australian aspirant, I think as soon as you graduate school, you're looking at the trimester 3 intake, um, which is October or November, which is when students actually go and join on campus. So we're saying if you join Russo by the time it hits September or October, you're actually transferring, having done your 4 subjects or half the curriculum of 1 year already. That not just saves you time, but you're not sitting home whiling away your time while you wait for the subclass 500 study visa. That's something that is an additional benefit. How many gap years are acceptable? I think Stephanie would answer that, but just to lay a context, if you've not done anything at all, that's tricky. But as long as your gap years are reasonable, you've done something, can prove, uh, then I would now ask Stephanie that if they have explainable gap, how much of it can you take, and what must they have done if they want to get into Russo? And also, I think would love to ask you when it comes to GTE for a degree, and conversely when it comes to an entering into a diploma, how is a diploma more beneficial, Stephanie?
Sorry, just didn't get the last bit about the GTE, did you say? Is that what you
Yes, I
said?
said yes,
Okay,
yes.
sorry, yeah, okay, sure. All right, so in terms of just breaking those components up into the first part, so generally with our entrance, we're looking for students to have completed a qualification within the last 5 years. If there's been that 5 year gap, there does need to be work or study within that 5 years, just so that we have a gauge on what you've been doing and how you've been enhancing, I guess, your study and yourself over that period of time. So if you've been working, just indications from an employer that you've been working and this is what you've been doing, all those things are really helpful for us to be able to assess your eligibility to enter into the course, but will also help when you apply for a visa to come to Australia as well. So, so those things will be taken into account in proving that you're a genuine student. In terms of having done the diploma or starting online, what that shows, and that really helps with the genuine student criteria that the government is looking for. So what that shows, if you've been doing some study online, you've done the first clusters, it shows that you're serious about what you're doing, that you really are committed to being a student, that you're coming to Australia because you genuinely are on a pathway to completing a bachelor's degree in Australia. So we're anticipating that that having done those first 4 subjects is going to be a real positive in having a visa application accepted and
Got
make it
that.
easier for you to transition to Australia. So I think that's some of the helpful aspects of what we're trying to do here.
Got that. Do these students have a limit or a cap of maximum number of gap years that they can have when they enter?
We haven't specified it in the rules. So generally at a point in time, in terms of academic requirements, we would say 5 years, or else you need to demonstrate that you have done some study out of college after you finish school, or done something, and then we're actually looking at that qualification and that study as the basis for your application. So we can't, if you finished school 10 years ago and you haven't really done anything in between, then that would be too much, if that makes sense. So
No, absolutely,
we
absolutely. I
haven't
get that.
specified a set number and said, after 2 years or after 5 years, it's not applicable, but those are the guidelines that we work for and that we would be looking for in assessing your applications.
Got that. What will be the overall cost for a bachelor's program in Australia? So, like Stephanie and I already mentioned to you, a general bachelor's degree will be for 3 years in Australia. Every single year costs you north of about 30,000 Australian dollars, which should be anywhere between 17 to 18 lakhs of rupees. So 18 is going to be about 54 lakhs of rupees that that you will almost end up spending, plus almost half the living cost for 3 years, because your part-time work can only get you so far in covering the entire living cost. So should be at least 70 to 75 lakhs, which you should be looking at. And conversely, if you start in India through the Russo Pathway, this brings down the cost by almost 15 lakhs of rupees, because you're One, you're saving 6 months of living expenses. Two, you're studying the first 8 subjects equivalent to 1 full year of your bachelor's degree in almost 7 lakhs instead of 17. That's what Russo's biggest boon is. Are there any scholarships available? What will be the procedure for scholarships? Like Stephanie mentioned, your grade point average or your merit in grade 12th is what counts. So when it comes to bursaries, you have to fulfill the admission criteria. As soon as you go north of it, you get the bursary automatically. It's not something that Stephanie or I will manually have to do. But when it comes to scholarships, uh, as soon as you enter the campus, you are as much a regular student, and you're as much entitled to a scholarship as anybody else when it comes to the normal disbursement that they have to scholarships. That largely depends on the GPA that you maintain while your degree is going on. Yes? Would jump to Stephanie and ask if I said the right thing,
Yeah, look,
Stephanie.
that's correct. Those bursaries start to come into play really probably from for students coming through this pathway from mid their second year. So really they'll need that sort of first year of their degree and the assessment made on the GPA. It's generally paid, it's not paid as cash. The bursaries are not paid as cash. They're actually paid as tuition fee waivers, so that we don't charge you the tuition fee for some subjects at the conclusion of your degree. So that's how those get paid. But yes, certainly there's certainly nothing that you can do right now to secure scholarships except do your best when you're studying, and then the rest can take care of itself.
Also, I think would love to jump in and add that our first batch for Russo Business School's pathway starts on May 31st, and next week is when we close admissions for it. The proposed date to end admissions is 18th May. We need at least 13 days to process your admission and selection via the Russo Business School. Your invitation or confirmation of enrollment or admission would come through the Russo Business School. I will shortly send you the application link to the Russo Business School, although that's going to be a conditional acceptance, and Russo will send you the final enrollment or admission letter. That's how it's going to be planned. I'm just shortly going to be sharing with you the application link. If you could give me one moment. If there's anybody interested, I think that's something that is going to be largely beneficial. Stephanie, while I post that link, I'd love to ask you that in case there's anyone who does not necessarily wish to end up with Griffith or James Cook, and has done the Diploma of Business program with you, how many waivers are they anticipated to get in the first year? You mentioned 6, right?
Look, yeah, that's me speculating. So what would happen if you didn't want to continue with JCU or Griffith? So first of all, I'll just take a step back. So when you come to Australia, when you apply, we'll make you an offer for the Diploma of Business at Russo Business School. After you complete the first cluster, we'll then make you an offer from either James Cook University or Griffith University, your choice. So that when you're applying for your visa, you're actually coming on a packaged offer from one of those institutions. If you decided that when you came to Australia that you didn't want, after completing the diploma, you didn't want to study with either of those institutions, you would need to just follow the rules around applying for other institutions. But you can apply to go to another institution and then ask them to give you credit for what you've studied in the diploma. Now, my guess, I guess, without knowing what that would be on an individual basis, is they would probably give you, around that 6 mark, if not the full 8. We have articulation agreements in place with James Cook University and Griffith, and that's why we know that as a definite what the credit is, and we're applying to a range of other Australian universities to put those formal arrangements in place as well, so that students know and can get that packaged offer made right from the start as to which institution that they want to go to. So I hope that answers the question, is that it's really a case-by-case basis and will depend on the course that you're wanting to go into at that institution and what the subjects are in their first year and how they equate to the subjects that we offer and whether they match
Right, I think
across.
that makes sense. Also, I want to jump in to explain to the attendees how does a pathway and articulation program actually work. So, an Australian degree is a cumulative of 72 credits or 24 subjects that a student normally finishes to get awarded with a bachelor degree. Uh, of the 24 subjects, any 8 are mapped or are taken as mutual subjects between two schools. Here we'll talk about Griffith and Russo School. So the Russo Business School actually covers 8 out of those 24. Now, these may not necessarily be in the first year of Griffith, but over a span of 3 years, if these are some of the subjects that Russo normally would teach, that's called the pathway. So what Stephanie largely is mentioning is so with Griffith and James Cook, an official articulation or academic mapping, course mapping has been finished and brought into practice. But until officially we actualize this with any other university, it's very tricky to say, but um, this kind of subjects that the Russo Business School actually covers is pretty much very general and foundational and should be in a regular business degree anywhere where you go in Australia, but it's difficult to comment unless there's an official articulation in place for the same. I hope I answered the person who had asked me this. The next question you, Stephanie, is IELTS mandatory and what is the minimum score required? Well, yes, IELTS is mandatory. 5.5 is the score required. I'd jump to Stephanie to ask about TOEFL, PTE, Duolingo, and anything else that she recommends the students can take.
Yeah, so for entry into the course, we need equivalent to IELTS. In our entry requirements, which upGrad will have as part of the prospectus, we do list a range of other tests that have the comparable scores for each of those courses. So it can be, there is a score for TOEFL, there is a score for PTE, there is a score for Duolingo, there's a few more there as well. When it comes to applying to a visa, but which is largely out of our control, the Australian government will often ask for an IELTS test. It's very standardised, and so for visa, the IELTS will potentially be required. For us, we just need to know that you're at the standard equivalent to an IELTS 5.5 in order to enter the course. The other option is that if you've done 2 years of study in an institution where the language of instruction was English, that would also mean you didn't have to have one of those test scores in order to gain entrance to the course. And the reason we set an English language requirement is the same as why we set academic requirements. It's about making sure that the students that we admit to the course are capable of succeeding in the course. And so that's where we've arrived at what is equivalent to a 5.5 on IELTS.
Got that. And I think for all the attendees to know, IELTS is normally a visa requirement just as much, and 5.5 is the minimum that students have to get in order to enter into Australia as a student. Stephanie, how does the GTE process look like for the diploma students?
Look, that's really a question for our international office. It's not a process that I go through with students, but really it's about our government in Australia making sure that when you're coming to Australia, you're coming for the purposes of being a student. So you're not coming to the purposes of being a holiday maker, or you're not coming for the purposes of working full time in Australia. At least initially, you're coming for the purpose of studying. And so the questions that they'll be wanting to ask you about is that academic area, is that you're able to do the study. The diploma is helping in that you've shown that because you've commenced, it's showing that you're definitely on that pathway. But I'm not an expert in actually the visa application process. We have staff in India who help students with that, and will be liaising with upGrad around that to provide advice to students about some of the things that they might need to mention in their visa application process, just to enhance their chances of being successful. I guess the other thing that that the government's looking for is also just around that you're financially able to support yourself while you're in Australia as well. So all those things together in totality come to are things that the government looks at when assessing your visa application.
Got that. I think that does answer most of the questions. Uh, would love to jump in and maybe take them through the kind of programs that they can take up with, with James Cook and Griffith. What
Yeah,
exactly? Yeah, I think I just want to take them through that.
yes,
So, if you do the Russo Business School Diploma of Business program, you actually can enter into James Cook University, which is in the same city, Brisbane, or alternatively, you can enter into Griffith, which is again in Brisbane. While in Griffith, you are entitled to get into the Bachelor of Business with the dual majors. James Cook gives you the option of Bachelor of Business or Bachelor of Commerce or Bachelor of Event or Bachelor of Social Work. Um, I can take you through some of the options that James Cook gives you. So James Cook's right here. Uh, it's ranked one of the top 25 universities in Australia, has about 21,000 students studying. And James Cook offers a BBA after the Diploma of Business with Business Intelligence and Information Systems, International Business, HRM Management, Hospitality, and Tourism Management. Commerce, for anybody doing accounting or looking to do so, you actually become an associate member of CPA in Australia. You should definitely search about it, CPA Australia, and you're actually halfway through with the exams that you need to clear CPA and practice accountancy. You also become a member of CANZ, CAANZ, which is the Chartered Accountant Association of Australia and New Zealand. Um, when it comes to Griffith, Griffith looks like this. It is in Brisbane. Again, top 200 universities in the world, ranked 33 in the QS top 50. Number one for hospitality across Australia, and number fifth globally, which is a big deal. So we've got about 25,000 universities in the world, and Griffith is number five in the world for hospitality and tourism management. Uh, Griffith offers you the degrees in these majors. Now you can pick up two majors as well and graduate with the double majors Bachelor of Business. I'll give you a minute to study these: accounting, Asian business, Asian engagement, behavioral sciences, business and analytics. I think my two best picks would be business analytics and accounting. I think if you really want to make your employability, uh, very lucrative, these two are the ones to go for. Australia is a huge market for accounting, and the world is a huge market for analytics any which way. But I think largely it is a personal choice, and what I also see is supply chain here, which is great. Recently, the Harvard Business Review uh, cited supply chain as the most sought after MBA in the world. So, which is one thing to look for. Uh, I'd also maybe ask Juliana and Stephanie to jump in and comment on which ones do they think are the most employable. Uh, I know the two of them will normally comment all of them are worth it, but would just want to know their picks if they had to pick the two of them, keeping the Australian economy in their mind.
I know that accounting is on our skilled migration list. I guess that's another thought when you're thinking about majors that you wanted that you're interested in. If you are interested in those post-study work rights or taking up longer term employment in Australia, certainly accounting is on that list. Having said that, I think accounting is one of those things that you really do have to be interested in to want to be an accountant, and for other people, if they're more interested in working with people or in that management side, doing subjects around human resource management, being able to work with people, because that's always going to be a really important aspect of any business, is being able to manage people and manage organizations. So I think there are a couple of good ones. Obviously, the business analytics. There's business analysts are always in demand in Australia as well, and I'm not sure if they're on the if they're not on the employment list, but being able to analyze data, analyze processes, process map, all those sorts of things are really highly sought after in businesses, and certainly people who have those skills are really highly sought after. But I'll leave it. I'll pass over to Juliana, who'll also probably have some comments around that as well.
No,
Yeah, I think it's really helpful to guide them at least that which industries are the most thriving and sought after. So I think Juliana's opinion is really helpful here.
Yeah, no, but I will just agree with what Stephanie said. You know, account is one of the major areas that students wanted to study, and IT and hospitality as well, because there are like more opportunities for them to stay here in Australia. But me as a career counselor, you don't need to do something just for the visa. You need to do something that you feel that you are capable to do it. Because if you are not good at numbers, if you're not good with technology, you are not going to be, even if you're just studying to get the visa, you are not going to get a job because you are not good at that. You know, you need to be good at what you can do, because there are all these students even studying just business or marketing because they are pretty good at that. There are a lot of business, they sponsor them because they are good with the skills for the major, you know. And that's the way that I normally say to the students, I know that you wanted to come here for the visa to stay here, but it's better for you to do something that you have passion, that you have the skills, than just do for something that you spend a lot of money and then at the end of the day you don't even get the visa.
No, absolutely. I think that makes sense. So largely speaking, Griffith and James Cook are two of the most better ranked or most sought after universities in Brisbane. Brisbane in itself is a thriving city, um, falls in Queensland, which has plenty of jobs and employability, and it's a great state to be in. Is close to Melbourne, which gives you the access to even wider job market. You can apply up to 2 years of work visa, which gives you the right to stay back in Australia and work. If you're great at work, if your skills or your specialization falls on the skill migration list, then that means that you've got greater chances of finding a full-time employment and can stay here for longer and actually get a visa to extend. But I think Russo, in my understanding, is one of the most efficient ways to not only study flexibly, but to save a lot of cost while you cover um, the first 8 subjects of your degree in Australia. And I think, like Stephanie was mentioning towards the beginning, that they've actually handpicked every subject to ensure that students actually learn an experiential-led methodology per se, and they are more equipped to champion academically their university life rather than somebody who's abruptly entering into university after school. That's what we're largely trying to do here. Wanted to thank everybody who was a part of this, Stephanie, Juliana, my team, and every attendee who's been here with us for so long. Thank you again for joining us on a Saturday afternoon. We appreciate that you were here with us. And my team here has put down certain SM handles that you'd love to be a part of. We regularly keep posting about scholarships, about the university launches. We got UG and PG courses both on our platform, upgradabroad.com. I think I'd give a chance to both Stephanie and Juliana to share their last words.
Look, yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Really happy to be having a chat to you tonight about it. Look forward to hopefully having some of you come on board and welcoming you to our beautiful city. Our campus in Brisbane is just behind me in the picture of the Story Bridge, which is quite an iconic landmark in Brisbane. We're located right in the CBD. It's a fabulous place to be right now. So really look forward to welcoming you to this great city.
I take it, Stephanie, words, my words as well, and I'm looking forward to see a lot of students coming to join us.
Thank you, Stephanie and
Thank
Juliana.
you so much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Praneeth. Enjoy the rest of your day. See ya.
Thank you, everybody. I've just put down the applications link for all the students. We're going to be closing for the May 31st batch. And after that, we may have a batch in July, which is tentative, or the next one affirmatively is in September. So make sure that you're signing up for the May 31st batch as long as you're done with your grade 12th. And you can always write to me on praneeth.singh@upgrad.com for more updates. Thank you very much again, Stephanie, and everybody else who's been a part of this.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.